So you think the Loch Ness Monster never existed? That the story is a cunningly cobbled together fiction intended to boost tourist interest in an otherwise unrelentingly dull, only to some, part of mid-Scotland? Think again. The embryonic science of geomythology is breathing new life into such stories, legitimizing the essence of some and opening up the possibility that other such folk tales might not be pure fiction but actually based on memories of events our ancestors once observed. Lacking the scientific understanding available to us today, people in the past contextualized such observations in ways that made sense to them. Keen that their descendants should know what had happened, not least should it happen again, many such stories were passed on, commonly orally, from one generation to the next. Invariably cloaked in multiple layers of embellishment, some stories have survived until today. Science has long vilified those who argue for the existence of giant saurians lurking in the depths of Loch Ness, but there has been some rehabilitation of these monster sightings. The geologist Luigi Picardi, who has done much to make the novel field of geomythology respectable, has argued that observations of Nessie are no more than the unusual agitation of the lake's water surface during an earthquake. The first written mention of the Loch Ness Monster, in the 7th century life of St. Columba, notes that the dragon appears kumijeti from Michu, with strong shaking, before disappearing tremor factor, shaking herself. And Picard has noted that the most seismically active sector of the Great Glen Fault, along which periodic earthquakes occur, runs along the axis of Loch Ness. Picard also argues that many temples built during the classical period in the eastern Mediterranean were intentionally built over geological fissures from which escaping neurotoxic gases might cause those sitting above them, like Pythia in the oracle at Delphi, to go into a trance in which they could reputedly foresee future events. The Pacific Islands, the focus of most of my research over the past 30 years, has stories about past natural events, massive eruptions and earthquakes, giant waves, for instance, that have traditionally been regarded as largely apocryphal. I have focused on some of the stories from Pacific Island cultures about vanished islands, stories that come from almost every part of this vast region, nearly 1/3 of the Earth's surface. The idea of an entire island disappearing suddenly seems instinctively implausible, the stuff of Atlantean fantasy, yet there are many such stories in the Pacific that seem quite believable at their cause. Take the example of Tuamu, which probably disappeared some 400 years ago, between the islands of Makaya and Ulawa in the central Solomon Islands. While most local traditions remember its disappearance as the act of a vengeful cuckold, the details about the accompanying series of tsunami waves and the location of Tuamu on the crest of a steep underwater ridge suggest this might really have happened as a result of an earthquake-induced landslip. Similar stories have been collected from central Vanuatu, where an island named Voumamid abruptly disappeared about 1870.